Hello, I'm Ryan, and welcome to Analyze This Mr. Bond, where I discuss the adventures of James Bond 007 and dig into that cultural phenomenon. And today we are talking about the upcoming announcement of a new James Bond. We've been looking forward to this for a long time, ever since Daniel Craig announced that No Time to Die would be his final turn at bat as 007. And now it seems that the announcement is on the horizon. Amazon MGM announced that the search for the Bond actor had officially begun, and now reports are that auditions will take place in the August timeframe. I think this is setting us up for, say, an October or so announcement. The announcement of a new James Bond has to work around the premiere of Dune 3 and the press cycle around that, so you either have to come in right before that press cycle is going to ramp up and take Denis Villeneuve into that press junket circus, or you wait till after that is concluded. So it's either going to be in October, or that means we're going to be on the hook waiting until early 2027. But I'm thinking with the amount of attention that Amazon MGM has put on this process, the spotlight they have put on it by saying, hey, the search has begun, this is a journey with a destination in mind. I think we are very much likely to see a relatively unknown actor take the part of 007, not just because the past casting director, Debbie McWilliams, who worked with Eon Productions and has strong opinions about what makes a good Bond, thinks that's where they should go, but I think that is just the direction we are naturally going to see Amazon MGM take for selfish financial reasons, but also really strong strategic reasons. You really do want this actor to be more associated with Bond than anything else. It's one reason I don't think we're going to get Callum Turner. I don't think they want Mr. Dua Lipa to be the new Bond actor as much as some people seem to be really excited about that choice. Similarly, I don't think anybody in the class of Aaron Taylor-Johnson is in the running anymore. Henry Cavill, that ship sailed. Henry Cavill admits as much. And they also seem to be looking at younger actors. The rumors of that have been fairly consistent. I believe that we are still looking at a Bond in the very late 20s, early 30s, which will put Bond at the earlier stages of his career. We've heard Stephen Knight say that he's been working with the SAS and similar organizations to understand those organizations, how they work. And I think that means he's thinking a little bit about that Bond background. So it may be that we are in for a kind of quasi-origin story, just like 007 First Light. Now, 007 First Light, the blockbuster smash hit video game with its own version of 007, played by Patrick Gibson, that has been widely acclaimed, has really done the origin story thing so well that I think it's risky for Bond 26 to attempt that a second time, but Stephen Knight is a capable writer, and I'm sure he has a very different posture than what 007 First Light was taking with material, and certainly tonally what we would expect from Denis Villeneuve is not in line with what the game 007 First Light was doing. 007 First Light very much feels like it's a big modern blockbuster adventure with a lot of the Eon Productions spirit brought back into the mix, but has much more of the sort of jaunty, I want to say almost Mission Impossible MCU flavor of banter and fun, along with a lot of the stakes and glamour and Bond tropes we expect. It's a very much a made-for-the-masses, feel-good blockbuster experience. I would think that we are in for something a little bit darker, a little bit more intense with Stephen Knight and Denis Villeneuve. Stephen Knight is a writer who has focused on portraits of dark, intense, violent men before. That's certainly subject matter that Denis Villeneuve likes a lot, and we know Villeneuve is very inspired by what was achieved during the Daniel Craig era. I don't think they're going to try to repeat that, but that does suggest some sense of where the Bond 26 tone is going to land. So let's assume I'm right that we're kind of heading towards something in that October timeframe. I think it's got to be October. September seems a little too soon if auditions are in August and then the final contractual details are being ironed out. October feels right. November feels a little late, a little too close with the Dune stuff. So if it's October, how is Amazon going to do this? Well, I think we've seen a regular cadence of Amazon announcements. So I think it is very possible that we will get something about Bond 26 in the interim between now and October. Maybe just a release date timeframe. I mean, that's the easiest kind of thing to drop out there. We all really have heard from the press and speculated ourselves that it's going to be fall 2028, probably November 2028 when Bond 26 debuts. So an announcement confirming that would be easy. It would be a nice thing to just kind of keep the conversation going a little bit, but maybe there'll be more or less a blackout between now and October, and that's okay as well. But if they do some sort of interim announcement, that would keep it going. And then I think it would make a lot of sense. And here's where I'm going to get a little speculative and suggestive, because I love to daydream about this. It would be so fun to be on the team planning how to launch the next James Bond, because we've had announcements of James Bond in the past that did not go well. Daniel Craig's introduction to the press was famously a bit of a disaster. He obviously wasn't very comfortable being in that role. He wasn't super well prepared, I think, for the demands of that press conference. I think the press conference didn't quite set him up for success. Certainly, casting director Debbie McWilliams felt that way. I think they really need to come out of the gate here, especially since this is Amazon MGM's first Bond movie. It's a new set of producers, David Heyman and Amy Pascal. It's a new creative team. It's a launch of a new version of Bond. I think you have to do something really strategic here. All eyes are going to be on this, so you can get away with something really simple. There are plenty of casting announcements that just drop with a press release, but with Bond, there's this tradition of really a bit of a circus around it. And I think Amazon MGM has a place to really say, okay, this is your first glimpse of the direction of where Bond is going to be going in this next chapter. What I really hope Amazon MGM will take advantage of, and this hasn't been the MO for the Bond 26 announcement stuff thus far. It's just been announcements out of the blue. I would really love to see them kind of build some anticipation. I would love to see a social media blackout. I'd love to see the 007 Instagram account and website just kind of go dark 14 days before the press conference with just a slow countdown. I'd love to see it be at Amazon MGM's headquarters, movie studio-wise in the UK, Bray Studios, famously associated with Hammer Horror. A great place to just take a soundstage and to have really transformed it into a platform to announce what Amazon MGM is doing with its studio there, and also just to plug into the legacy of the British film history. And at that event, I think the most successful press conference reveal we ever had in the past few years was when they did the Spectre reveal, and it was just this slow reveal of the title, and the title kind of appeared, and it was suddenly this wonderful visual moment, and everybody knew what the title represented. Spectre immediately meant something to a lot of people, and I don't think you can quite do that moment again. That was a very unique title, but I think you can build that kind of theatrical anticipation around this new Bond actor. You can have this great soundstage and this screen building into this giant crescendo, and then there he is. The Bond actor walks out. Here's our new James Bond, and he's joined by Denis Villeneuve, he's joined by David Heyman, he's joined by Amy Pascal, he's joined by Stephen Knight. You know, that kind of big theatrical moment is the kind of thing I'm really hoping that Amazon MGM delivers. And I hope along with that, there's a really intelligent press communication beyond just the press announcements. When Daniel Craig was announced, there was a promo picture presenting him as Bond. It was a little rough because his hair was the haircut he needed to have for another movie he was making at the time. So it wasn't the best promo picture of Daniel Craig during the entire Craig run, but it got a lot of circulation. I think doing that and going a step further, having a full, almost magazine-style photo shoot with the new Bond actor in a place that has some historical weight, some association with the Bond legacy as part of British culture, maybe a photo shoot at the famous Les Ambassadeurs casino, the kind of place Bond would hang out in classic Bond lore. That would be a really great way to kind of establish this character, hit the ground running, and immediately have a press piece circling. And I think if Amazon MGM is smart, there will also be some level of announcement merch. I have said this before that I think it would be really great if they just released, I don't know, a bunch of merchandise with James Bond Will Return, a teaser poster to that effect. Sure, they don't even have to announce the title at this press conference. In many ways, they should probably hold off to the title to keep the press momentum moving as they get into the year 2027 and need to kind of keep that ball rolling. So something that is just whetting people's appetite. If they have announced the release date before then, that release date can be on the teaser poster. I think it would be really smart if there's just some baseline launch that goes along with this that is just gonna start leading into the actual production launch of a brand new Bond movie, which is gonna kick off in earnest in 2027. That's how I think it's going to go down. Let me know if you think I'm right or wrong about that basic timeline. Let me know if you're looking forward to it. I know the idea of a younger Bond is still pretty controversial for some folks, but I think First Light has really sold me on the idea that it can be done well, and I generally do trust Stephen Knight as a storyteller who I think will do right by this character, so I have a feeling whichever direction they're going with it isn't going to be too flippant or thoughtless. But admittedly, an origin story was not my preferred take. I have famously pitched that they should really be doing a year 2 Bond, a kind of Bond that is past his initial phase and is well into his career. That's kind of ideally what I'd want to see. So I can go both sides on it, but I'm generally an optimist as I look forward to Bond 26. So let me know if you're with me on that. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.